Good morning to all the fine people out there. I've decided to do the intro in more of a piratey accent, so that I don't feel quite as discouraged. I figure it makes me sound more awake. In reality, I'm not any more awake than I normally am, I'm just pretending really well. Today's is going to be a little bit of a kind of a tangled wandering, and I apologize in advance to anybody who watches this. I will do my best to give you the Reader's Digest of everything and try and make it halfway coherent. So, something happened last night that hasn't happened for a while. I don't know if I'm the only person this happens to. I suspect I'm not. But I suffer from reoccurring nightmares. And there's one in particular that has plagued me for a good chunk of my life. Now, when I describe this nightmare, people are going to laugh because it's stupid. It's a really stupid nightmare to have, but it is what it is. So I've had a recurring nightmare for a good chunk of my life about being trapped on a theme park ride that suddenly goes wrong. I don't mean like the stuff that you find at Elich's. I'm talking more on the style of Disneyland. I think the official technical term for them is dark rides, where you get into a cart and you kind of move through a track and different story elements play themselves out in the form of animatronics or sculptures as you move through the ride. I guess the closest Colorado equivalent would be the Ghost Blasters ride at Elich's, although that's kind of a poor imitation of what you find at other parks like Disneyland. But I've had this dream for years, where I get on the theme park ride, and the park varies, the ride varies, but then something on the ride goes horribly, horribly wrong. And usually what happens is that what starts as a happy, innocent children's ride suddenly turns dark and evil. The most common iteration of it is that I will be, going through some little happy, idyllic village scene, and there's, the stand-up cardboard cutouts of all of the characters, and then the music will turn ominous, and all the characters will flip around, and there'll be ghosts and witches and monsters on the other side, and the lighting all changes, the music all changes. And again, it sounds silly, it really does, but this has plagued me for most of my life. And as time has gone on, it's evolved. The rides have become more elaborate. The theming has changed. It's not always cardboard cutouts. Sometimes they're animatronics. Sometimes they're actual live characters in the ride. But I always hit a point, and I always know when it's going to happen. And something goes wrong, and the ride becomes terrifying. Now, there's a reason I'm bringing this up, which I will make clear here in a minute. But actually, I'm trying to think of the best way to organize my thoughts here, because I guess there's kind of two things that I'm trying to talk about that are interspersed. So let's go back in time to when little Matthew was running around gleefully through elementary and middle school. And like many of us, I was told growing up, you can be anything. If you try hard enough, if you work hard enough, you can do anything. And I firmly believed that. I was a very idealistic and naive sort of child. I went through most of my early life believing that yes, if you tried hard enough, you could do anything. Anytime something failed, anytime something didn't work properly, the answer I always received was, you didn't try hard enough, you didn't apply yourself, you didn't work hard enough for it. And to be fair, many times those answers were true. Children they only throw themselves into the things they really enjoy, so anything other than that, you're not going to get 100% effort out of. Well, I started to internalize that idea when I reached high school, and as I've mentioned a couple of times, I used to compete in high school speech and debate. And I finally, I think it was my third year, I finally knuckled down and applied myself 100%. I tried and worked as hard as I could. And when I did that, that year, I went to our national tournament. I made it to our national tournament in debate and in 4 speech events, if I remember correctly. Speech is divided up into a bunch of different types of things that you can perform. I made it to second place in one category of speaking. For 1 year, in that particular category in my age group, I was the best in the nation, or the second best in the nation. Now, the second year, there was some stuff going on at home that made that not work as well. But I still applied myself 100%, still made it to the national tournament. That was a big deal back then. That was basically like, that was what I was passionate about when I was younger. It took several years in the workforce before that illusion broke. It took 2 years in a call center, listening to people scream at me about why their television wasn't working. And it slowly eroded away at this bubble of optimism, of innocence, and it started to erode away at this belief that if you try hard enough, you can do anything. I think when I first started to see it, it was when I would look around at the other agents around me. And there was a bonus system in place at that particular job, and I gave 100% every day I set foot on that floor. And I would sometimes get the mid-tier bonus, but I could never get the higher tiers. And it took me a long time, and it took me watching people who would routinely get these bonuses to realize that they were cheating. They were not exemplifying the customer service values that we were taught going through training. They were taking shortcuts, they were bypassing rules, and they were doing it all to get their bonus. And I looked at that and went, well, if they're not trying as hard as they should, why should I? And experience after experience, little by little, my work ethic, my ability to throw 100% of myself into any one task began to erode away. I found myself giving 95%, and then 90, and then 85. Year after year after year, as I watched people cheat and lie and be deceitful, people not work as hard as they could, and seem to make it just as well. Year after year of projects, some of them working, but some of them not working. Down to a point where at my previous job, not where I am right now, but the previous job, my mental health got so bad that I was giving 25%. I was working at 25% of my capacity. It took my supervisors until 25% to notice something was wrong. Okay, they probably noticed a little bit sooner than that, but it was at 25%, and after I had been at 25% for a while, when they came to me and they said, hey, your numbers are dropping a little bit. You need to bring these up. Is everything okay? And I remember this moment of utter dejection when I realized that my 30% was apparently as good as everybody else's 80 to 90%. Most people do not apply themselves 100% of their jobs, and I absolutely understand that. But I looked around at these people that were making, in many cases, more than I was. And it was a moment, and I hate to sound so melodramatic, but it kind of broke me. When I realized that me barely trying I mean, doing what I consider to be the minimum possible amount where I could let it slip by with my conscience. And it was not much worse than the other people around me that I assume were trying harder. It's kind of a joke from a party a couple of years ago, but throughout most of my life, I've joined Team Minimum Effort. As my life has gone on, I have exerted the minimum amount of effort to achieve my goals humanly possible. I'm always looking for ways to not cut corners, but to cut labor, to make things work better, optimize things, make them more efficient. But I haven't given 100% in years. I've tried, but it's never quite 100%. And I realized, and this is why I brought up the dream thing earlier, it's tied, I think, to my perception of control. I saw that even though I gave 100%, life was out of control. And from that point forward, I kind of said to myself, well, if I can't control what's going on, why should I even try? And then it became a convenient built-in excuse. Project failed. Well, I didn't give it 100%. It wasn't that important. I didn't try hard enough. And it became a lie that I told to myself over and over and over again. And we come to today, when, once again, life has spun out of control. The reason I brought that dream up in the previous, a couple minutes ago, is because this nightmare starts to happen every time life starts to spin out of control. And this happens regularly. It's part of life. But due to corporate budget cuts, I have to have a new job in February. I've got to find a new job. It's not me. Budget cuts. I'm just a little man on the totem pole. And when I lose a job, or when I quit a job, life spirals out of control. So I realize that's one of my signs that life is going out of control. And I started to plan, trying to figure out what on God's green earth I'm going to do. And there's been a couple of things that have been in the works. And I thought about it. It's like, well, I could get this project up and off the ground finally. But there's this little voice that's going, yeah, but you never will. Because it's going to require 100% from you. And even if you give 100%, it might not work. You might not have control over it. And as ashamed as I am to admit it, that petrifies me. The thought of actually applying myself 100% in anything anymore scares the crap out of me. Because 100% is exhausting. It is exhausting to work at 100%. It's exhausting to try. And it's exhausting to fail. And it's even worse when you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into something and it doesn't work. But maybe this is why I can't look at myself in the mirror. Maybe because I look at myself and I see somebody who doesn't try hard enough. Somebody who doesn't apply himself. Maybe this is part of the journey that I need to walk. I've been a member of Team Minimum Effort for my entire adult life. I don't know if I know how to change that. I don't know if I know how to apply 100% anymore. I have a bad habit of working myself into the ground. Even my wife has seen it happen time and time and time again. Even when I'm only applying 75% or 60%. I've run myself into the ground because I feel like I haven't done enough. So what's 100% going to do to me? But I don't feel like I've got a choice. I have to try. Every time I didn't give 100%, it was like a chain being thrown across me. And each chain was small. And each chain in of itself would have been easy to break. But time after time, another chain, and then another chain, and then another chain, and they build up. And now I feel like I'm trapped. The amount of mental strain and effort it is going to take to break this chain, the amount of sheer willpower it is going to take to try again, to try 100% again, boggles my mind and makes me shake like a leaf. Because I am still so tired. I am so exhausted. My mental health is barely glued back together, and it's not anywhere near fixed. But at the same time, I can't not try. I can't be serious about trying to make myself better if I don't give it a shot, if I don't try. I don't like being this vulnerable. I don't like people seeing when I struggle. I try so hard to put up a facade that everything's okay, that I've got it, that I'm not struggling, but I can't live like that anymore. I can't lie about what's difficult anymore. So we're going to try. We're going to try 100%. We're going to try and throw full power into something for the first time in over a decade. And who knows, I may fall flat on my face. I probably will fall flat on my face, but it doesn't excuse me from trying. Don't do what I did. Don't become a member of Team Minimum Effort. In all that you do, do it like he's watching. Do it for something bigger than yourself, and don't ever compromise. Don't ever give anything less than your best, or else you will have a life plagued with regrets like I do. This was a longer one. To those who watched or who have watched and were able to watch the whole thing, I appreciate it. And I will see you guys again next time. Have a good day.